Welcome, everybody, to episode 36 of the Play by Play podcast. I'm Diego Gallegos, where today we will be doing a full early preview of the NFC conference in 2024 in the NFL. We are going to be giving away too early predictions on division standings and just doing a preview on each team and seeing where they land in the NFL as of right now. If you haven't already and you're listening on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, tap the bell for notifications so that you can be notified anytime that we post either a podcast episode or a clip. Make sure to also like the video and comment down below. Maybe I'll reply to you and we can have a little bit of a debate in the comments. And feel free to please, I can't encourage this enough, follow our social medias, follow our TikTok, our Instagram, and our Twitter/X account so that you can see some of the clips from the podcast, some of my reactions to the latest breaking news from the NBA and the NFL. The TikTok is going to be at official play-by-play. The Instagram is going to be play-by-play_podcast. And the X/Twitter account is going to be play-by-play_pod0. Again, that is TikTok at official play-by-play. Instagram at play-by-play_podcast. And the X/Twitter is play-by-play_pod0. But without further ado, the NFC conference in the NFL. It has been a conference that going into this year's season is going to have so many interesting storylines because there have been so many teams that have gotten some new characters, some new faces. There have been some teams that have lost a solid core of identity to them, and we're just going to have to see how they respond and how they perform this season when losing that many players, when losing possibly even an important coach in their rotation. It has been a conference that in the past 10 years has not been held to very much success. In fact, they have only won 3 of the last 10 Super Bowls the past decade, the most recent one being the LA Rams over the Cincinnati Bengals about 2 years ago. So it's clear that the AFC has been a little bit more dominant, especially offensively wise. I think you can see that with the reign that the Kansas City Chiefs have done. Their defense last year was a lot better than defenses that they had in the past, but they were just able to outscore most of their opponents. And I think that's what you're seeing on either side of the coin. On the AFC, I think you're seeing a lot more offense, a lot more high scoring games, a lot more shootouts. And then on the NFC side, it seems to be a little bit more gritty. Games seem to be a little bit closer coming down to the bitter end, which is entertaining, don't get me wrong. But when you face them one-on-one against these AFC teams, it just doesn't seem like they have enough to really compete with them from an offensive standpoint, because AFC teams like Miami have so many options with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You have speedsters in the backfield with guys like Devin Achane, Raheem Mostert. Look at Cincinnati. Their 3 wide receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd right there. The Chiefs, we just talked about it. No matter what weapons they have, they still do a great job at utilizing the best quarterback in the game, Patrick Mahomes. They still do a great job at utilizing pretty much unanimous the best tight end in the game, Travis Kelce. And Andy Reid, one of probably the best offensive minds ever in the history of the NFL, always seems to do a great job at putting his players in the right positions according to their strengths. So the NFC is obviously going to have to stop this, and they have been looking to. There have been some teams in the NFC that did a great job in this year's draft, patching up some holes on defense that we're going to be excited to see. Teams like Philly that did an incredible job fixing up their secondary, making it a lot younger, giving them some insurance. You had Minnesota picking up Dallas Turner in the first round. That is a huge pass rush addition, which I believe they got him at about 17. That is a steal for a guy that, at least me personally, I had going in the top 10 of that year's draft. So just going through the conferences, just looking at everything, we're going to start in the NFC North, one of the divisions that I think people should have a huge eye on. I think that this is going to be one of the most exciting divisions in the NFL, as it always is. I think that we're going to have some incredible division rival games, and it's going to come down to the wire in a photo finish on who finishes atop this division. So way too early NFC North predictions. I have the Detroit Lions finishing first at 13-4. I have the Green Bay Packers finishing second at 12-5. I have the Chicago Bears in third at 9-8, and finally to finish it out, the Minnesota Vikings at 5-12. So just going through this division real quickly, with Detroit at number one, they're really the most established team going to the NFC conference last year. They didn't really lose a lot. You still have your quarterback in Jared Goff, your main weapons in Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. You have Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. I think Dan Campbell, while he's not one of my favorite coaches, just seeming as he tends to take a lot of risks that doesn't seem to pay off, I still think that he has a lot of energy. He's a great motivator, and the defense is there for sure as well. I think that last year they just ran into a few problems. Maybe just with youth, maybe just with that team not being too experienced deep into the playoffs, maybe a coaching lack of experience that they fell short to a team like San Francisco who has been there before. But I think that this is a team that's absolutely going to trailblaze throughout the NFC conference, throughout the entire regular season. I have them going 5-1 in their division. It's going to be super, super fun to see this Detroit Lions team work and possibly try and get to the end in the Super Bowl. And behind that, I have the Green Bay Packers, another team that I think is going to be really competitive. I have making the playoffs at 12-5. Again, not too many pieces lost. Jordan Love is obviously still your main piece. The offensive line is a little bit downgraded, as we've seen. Bakhtiari has come off the books the past couple of years. And I am not as confident in their weapons as something like Chicago or Detroit. I think that guys like Christian Watson are solid receivers, good receivers, but aren't somebody that can typically be a number one. I would like to see somebody maybe like Romeo Doubs step into that role a little bit more, to take over a little bit more. I think the defense is going to be okay. And again, I think that with Chicago's youth, I think that with Minnesota's lack of a quarterback, I think that the Green Bay is going to have an edge on some of these division games just based on either having higher talent or a bigger experience gap in the end, which brings me to Chicago, who I have that sitting at 9-8. I think this is a consensus where most people have them, and I think it's going to be a pretty up and down season, just based because this is a pretty fresh franchise. New rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, brought in Keenan Allen. They obviously had DJ Moore on the books already, and Cole Kmet as well. DeAndre Swift, the running back. You have Romeo Dunze coming in. It's just going to be a huge adjustment for all of these guys to come in and start firing on all cylinders and gelling together right away. So I think that the beginning of the season is going to be a little bit rough for them, but I think by the end they're going to be firing, and they're going to be looking like one of the surefire offense in the league. As long as Matt Eberflus can kind of stay out of the way, as he is a little bit more of a defensive coach, and just let the Bears offense work. Let the offensive coordinator do what he needs to do. Hopefully that there's trust there between the offensive coordinator and Caleb Williams, like there wasn't between Justin Fields and Luke Getsy. And hopefully they're on the same page and just moving forward. I think that they're going to be very competitive in a lot of these division games. But again, I think because of an experience thing, I think that they are going to fall, especially to the big players in Detroit and Green Bay. And Minnesota, I have them going 5-12. I know that this might be a little bit lower than most people might expect, just seeing as the offense is so surefire with TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson. But quarterback is a big thing. We all know this. And with Sam Darnold looking to be the man behind the wheel, at least for the start of the season, there hasn't been a lot of talk of J.J. McCarthy coming out of training camp. There hasn't been a lot of good talk coming out of training camp. So I think that Darnold is going to be looking as the guy to start first. I just don't see him being somebody that is going to show up in big time games throughout the season. Sure, he's going to look absolutely incredible against teams like Carolina if they face off against New England, maybe some of the teams in the NFC South. I don't know everyone's scheduled by heart, so I'm not sure who exactly they play. But those lower 15 teams, I think Sam Darnold is going to look great. It's the same thing that we saw with him when he was in Carolina a couple of years ago. But he's just not going to be able to put it together against some of these greater teams like San Francisco, like Detroit, like Green Bay. Which moves us to, we go from probably one of the most watched divisions to probably one of the divisions that are going to be least watched this year, and that is the NFC South. Way too early NFC South division predictions. I have the Atlanta Falcons absolutely dominating at 12-3. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in second at 7-10, the New Orleans Saints at 4-13, and I have the poor Carolina Panthers coming in at last at 2-15. going to start from the bottom here just with Carolina. It's not a team that had a very impactful offseason so far. Wasn't too impressed with their first round draft pick in Xavier Legette. Didn't feel like he was the best wide receiver on the board. Yes, they did trade for Deontay Johnson. Yes, they did upgrade the offensive line. So the situation is going to be a little bit better for Bryce Young going forward. However, I feel like Bryce Young's confidence right now is a little bit shot. I think it's going to take him some time until he's fully firing again with full confidence. I think that there's going to be a lot of hesitation from him early out in the gate. Now, luckily, because they are in a weak division, I think that you are going to be seeing them compete. But I think that they're going to fall against most of the teams in the NFL. I have these guys as a bottom 2 or 3 team. I think only New England is a team that I would put behind them, but that's because that team is so raw, has probably one of the least deep teams in the league. And then you move on to New Orleans, who was kind of the opposite. I think that they actually had a really solid draft. The thing that I liked the most was their second round pick in Kool-Aid McKinstry, was one of my highest rated cornerbacks on the board in that draft. He pairs right along with Marshawn Lattimore. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And I do like their offensive attack as well a little bit with Chris Olave in there. I think he had a lot of great moments last year on the Saints. But again, it comes down to a quarterback situation with me. It comes down to the fact that Derek Carr just really isn't the guy for the job. He's not a long-term fix. He is very much in that Sam Darnold range where he's an experienced veteran. He's somebody that is going to early on come out and is going to dominate a lot of these teams. But later on, when you see them going against more prestigious teams, he's definitely going to struggle against the top tier defenses and top tier secondaries. You put Derek Carr against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, it's going to be very, very difficult for New Orleans to continue to pass the ball effectively through the air. And the running attack, while it has been solid in past years, Kamara just has not had the same production that he has had at his peak. And really, it also, the Dennis Allen thing, don't believe that he is one of the top head coaches in the league. Don't think that he is really deserving as a head coach at all. I think that this is his last year on board with the Saints. I think that they're going to look to get rid of him. I think because he had former head coaching experience. I think because he was on board with some of the things that Sean Payton was doing. I think they wanted to bring him on to see if he can be that immediate replacement, but I think it is clear now that he cannot. And then you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another team that I think made a couple of good pickups. Graham Barton fixing that interior offensive line. He was one of the only good interior offensive linemen in this draft, and they really, really did need interior offensive line. I do obviously believe that Baker Mayfield played great last year. We're going to have to see if he can continue that play on this following season. We're going to continue to see if these older aging weapons are going to be able to continue to produce. Guys like Mike Evans, are they going to continue to have the solid years that they have been having in the past? I apologize. And is the pass rush still going to be there? Are guys like Vita Vea going to be able to step up and put pressure on the quarterback? Now, seeing again, as the South isn't that competitive, I think you're going to see them have a very solid record. I have them going undefeated against both the Saints and the Carolina Panthers. I think that they could possibly split with the Atlanta Falcons if Atlanta's having a little bit of an off day. But overall, I think that this is a team that once again just falls below that kind of average mark that you see in the NFC. And if Baker can't repeat the season that he had a year ago, it's definitely going to be a lot more of a struggle for them this year. And finally, in first place, 12-3 Atlanta Falcons. This is going to be one of the most exciting situations to watch with Kirk Cousins. Obviously, you don't like to see the first round pick that they had with Michael Penix Jr. It obviously felt like a wasted pick. But it was already an offense that was pretty solidified, has a lot of great young core guys, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, solid offensive line, Bijan Robinson coming behind. So the offense didn't need much work. It was the defense. This has been one of the worst defenses in the NFL over the past couple of years. A terrible secondary, a terrible pass rush that has fallen down in pressures, in sacks with the quarterback. You can go look at all the stats. This has been a bottom pass rushing defense. And with A.J. Terrell regressing, this defense, they're going to look to outscore majority of their opponents. And if they go up against a top tier defense, I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to do that. If they go against San Francisco, if they go against Detroit, if they go against Green Bay, who just upgraded their secondary with two safeties, when you go up against top level secondaries, I just don't think that they're going to have enough to get over the edge. Now, don't get me wrong, they're going to beat the crap out of their division. They're probably going to be able to beat other people that are lower than first place in their division. Like if they were to go up against teams in the NFC West, like Seattle, like Arizona, definitely believe that they could beat people there and outscore people there. But when you're looking at Philly, when you're looking at Dallas, when you're looking at Detroit, when you're looking at San Francisco, they're going to fall short from them just based off of this defense is still terrible. And I still believe that this offense, while explosive, is still really young and is going to need some time to develop. And it's going to take some time for Kirk Cousins to gain some trust, especially with the Atlanta Falcons front office following the move that they did. So let's see how that controversy does, how that messes with his confidence. And obviously coming off of an Achilles injury, we can't count on him being the same Kirk Cousins that was in Minnesota a year or two ago. Going out east into the NFC East, way too early predictions. We have the New York Giants and last at 3-14. We have the Washington Commanders coming in third at 4-12. The Dallas Cowboys at 11-5 in second, and the Philadelphia Eagles first, going 15-2. Very, very high for Philly this year. Just gonna get Washington and New York out of the way, even though they're pretty two different situations, especially when it comes to the quarterback. In New York, you have Daniel Jones kind of on his last leg, going to need a prove-it season from him this year to get a new contract from New York or to get a new contract from anywhere, whether it's to be a backup, whether it's to be a starting quarterback. I very much think that he is in a Baker Mayfield situation when Mayfield was hopping around, joining with the Rams, filling in for the Rams that one game. He just needs to prove himself, but they haven't actually given him any of the offensive weapons to go out and prove himself. Sure, Malik Neighbors is on board there, but when they start to hone in on him, when they start to shut him down, there's nothing else behind this New York offense. Taking away Saquon Barkley is a huge hit to the running game, which was a huge part of New York's offense, especially when they wanted to run an option play with Daniel Jones and Saquon. With Daniel Jones' mobility and just Saquon's overall greatness, that made that a really dangerous combination. But now it's just not going to be – it's not going to have the same power. And the running back is not going to be the same threat that it was a year ago. And like I said, with the wide receiver position not looking great, with Darren Waller now retiring, you have to be able to give Daniel Jones some weapons to be able to prove himself, and they just have not done that. And this has been a franchise that has struggled to win over the past couple of years. It's not going to end now. They still have a very, very long way to go in this rebuild. And on the other coin, you have the Washington Commanders, a team that I think is actually going to be pretty competitive this year, but it's just going to fall to so many of these teams. Obviously, they have the young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Going to be very interested to see how he does coming out of the blocks. I think he's going to be starting right away, and I think that there's going to be some growing pains for him early on. I think that he's going to be making some mistakes, possibly a lot of fumbles if he goes on the run early and gets hit pretty hard, so hopefully he can stay away from injury. But it's going to be a fun show, and kind of the opposite. I think Washington, solid offensive line, not great, but solid. I think that the targets they have, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, even the running backs that they have in the backfield, such as Brian Robinson Jr., definitely some solid, not great, but solid weapons for him to work for. I think that this is going to be an offense that, again, is going to be able to compete, but is going to be falling to majority of the teams, even an NFC South team like Tampa Bay. I think I like Tampa Bay over them. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be super interesting this year. The Dallas Cowboys, with them simply just losing so much talent, with them losing Tony Pollard in that backfield, that's really going to be the huge hit. We're really going to see where Dak Prescott lies, because it's going to have to become pretty much a passing attack now. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, is that even enough? Jake Ferguson, solid time last year, and the offensive line is not where it is. They lost Tyron Smith. was an offensive line that used to be surrounded by 3 or 4 Hall of Famers. And now really the only one left from that is Zach Martin. You have Tyler Guyton at tackle, Terrence Steele at tackle. There's just not a lot more to this offensive line. Still think the defense is going to be amazing. Eric Kendricks in there is going to be great. Obviously, you have guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Michael Parsons coming in the pass rush. And if Trayvon Diggs can come back healthy, along with Malik Hooker in the secondary, if Diggs can come back healthy, continue to be that ball hawk, I definitely think that helps them. So I think the defense is going to be able to keep them in games. But with the running attack being absolutely non-existent, with the offensive line being weaker, how well is Dak going to react to pressure? Not very well. And I think that while they do have some great regular season success, I think it's going to be a typical Dallas Cowboys season where they end up going out in the first or second round in the playoffs. So sorry, Cowboys fans, no Super Bowl for you guys this year. Possible Super Bowl, however, for the Philadelphia Eagles at 15-2. Now, obviously, another team that has had a couple of blows to them. Mainly Jason Kelce retiring at center. That's going to be huge. It's a big hit to the offensive line. Obviously, you still have Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata. So there. But tight end has not been a huge strong suit for them. Dallas Goedert is a solid tight end. He's not a great one. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, adding Saquon Barkley is going to be huge for them in the running attack. It is going to open up so much for Jalen Hurts. It's going to make the passing attack way more unpredictable. Maybe some option play. We see the New York Giants running that, so maybe they adapt that. Defensively, made some huge additions this year, ones that I'm super excited for. Devin White, one of the quickest linebackers in the league today, upgrading the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell, again, one of the top corners. Personally, not my top corner in the draft, just seeing as he did play at Toledo. He did play against some lesser competition, so we're going to see how he adjusts to the speed and physicality of the NFL. But you get Quinyon Mitchell. You have Darius Slay. You have James Bradbury, so there's your 3 corners right there. And then you pick up Cooper DeJean, who could fill in at the free safety spot. I could see him starting over Reed Blankenship. I know that's crazy. Blankenship has been a solid starter in the NFL for years, but I could see DeJean over him. CJ Gardner-Johnson, don't mind him at all either. Think he's a great talent. So I think that this defense is very much improved. And I think with them being able to get ones over on New York and Washington, I think that they will have the upper hand on Dallas. They always tend to have the upper hand on Dallas. And with the running attack not being where it's at, I think that they will definitely be over them. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to be here to stay. And the question is, are they going to be able to get over a team like San Francisco, like Detroit, to possibly push for a Super Bowl ring? Speaking of the San Francisco 49ers, our final preview and prediction for the day. NFC West division, way too early predictions. Arizona Cardinals at 4-13 in 4th place. Seattle Seahawks in 3rd at 6-11. The LA Rams at 8-9 in 2nd. And the San Francisco 49ers also at 15-2 in 1st place. It's a division that seems to kind of always have this order. Cardinals always used to normally come in last. You have the Rams and the Seahawks kind of battling it out for that 2nd and 3rd spot. And then the Niners in the past couple of years have kind of just dominated this division. So it's going to be very interesting for them. When you look at the Cardinals and their depth chart, obviously the big story is going to be revolved around Marvin Harrison Jr. Plugs right into that number 1. But they did pick up Zay Jones from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's going to be big. James Conner has been solid at running back. So we're going to see really what Gooden and Kyler Murray can really do here. Can Kyler take advantage of finally having a solid number 1 option? When you look at the defense, there are a couple of highlights. The secondary is definitely a little bit improved. You have Sean Murphy-Bunting. Buda Baker's there. Jen Thompson is all right. The pass rush leaves a lot to be desired. Zaven Collins, I guess, would look to be one of your top pass rushers. So when you're going against top-studded offenses in your division, like the 49ers, like the Rams, you're going to want a more prestigious defense, and I think that's where they're going to falter. I also think that the offensive line is going to be a little bit of a struggle for them. They have Will Hernandez at guard. Jonah Williams has been an average tackle at best. There's not a lot to this Arizona Cardinals offensive line, so I think that they're going to struggle there. And overall, I think it's going to be another rebuild year, but hopefully Kyler and Marvin Harrison go out and start to build a really, really good connection, because that's what you want out of your star quarterback and your number one receiver, is just to start to build that connection, so that way when the rest of the offense catches up, they can go ahead and start building this into a top-tier passing offense. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks. We move from having only one weapon to having three. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, Noah Fant at tight end. While he hasn't had a couple of great years since coming over from Denver, still have a lot of faith that he can go there. Charles Cross, a great left tackle there. Kenneth Walker, the third, solid. I think once again, it comes down to the defense, like Devon Witherspoon. I actually really like Reek Woolen in there. Good duo. Julian Love, solid at safety. But again, pass rush, Nwosu, solid. Jerome Baker, average. Leonard Williams, good pass rusher, but is a little bit past his prime. I'm going to have to see if he can continue to perform at an older age. So it's just going to, once again, come down to the defense here. And when you're facing, once again, prestigious offenses like the 49ers, like the Rams, if they face off against the Falcons, the defense, in my opinion, is just going to struggle. But the secondary should carry a little bit. Just a little bit more worried about that pass rush. And finally, looking at the LA Rams. Well, not finally. Looking at the LA Rams. Finished second last year in the NFC West. Again, bringing over many of the same guys. Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, solid offense. Tyler Higbee did a solid job plugging in there. Rob Havenstein, very solid right tackle. Again, it's the defense. Picked up Jared Verse, somebody who I had them picking up in that draft. They can him at 19. But losing Aaron Donald is obviously going to be a humongous hit. Did pick up Tre'Davious White in the secondary, so I think the question for them is just somebody that they can find to really identify and bring identity to that defense. Who is going to be their main guy? Who is going to be their future Aaron Donald, whether that's Tre'Davious White causing havoc in the secondary, or it's Jared Verse causing havoc pressuring the quarterback. And finally, the 49ers. Now I have to say, despite them going 15-2, not very impressed by their offensive line. John Feliciano, Jake Brendel in the middle, Aaron Branks in the interior, not very great. Trent Williams, solid left tackle, but made some mistakes in the Super Bowl. Is getting up there in age. Cole McKivitz on the outside. Not really sure what to expect out of him, but the offensive attack is still incredible. Brandon Ayuk going to be looking for a new contract. Definitely going to have to see what happens there with that situation. And the defense, I mean, it's star-studded. They picked up Leonard Floyd. Malik Collins in the middle can also still be Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa. I can keep going, go down the line. Trey Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, Charvarius Ward in the secondary. If Hufanga can come back off of that injury, Greenlaw as well off the injury in the Super Bowl. This is just a who's who of some of the best defenders in the NFL, which I think is definitely what is going to make this team dangerous. I think that they're going to dominate most of their games, definitely going to dominate their division and come in first, not only in the division, but in the conference. So just look at this from a playoff perspective, I would have the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles tied first and second at 15-2. Falcons come in third at 12-3, and fourth would be Detroit at 13-4. That is just simply because Detroit would lose one more game in their division. Oh, no, one more conference game in their division. That would be the tiebreaker. The Green Bay Packers in fifth at 12-5. Dallas comes in at 11-5 at 6. And at 7, the Chicago Bears finish it out at 9-8, with teams such as LA, Tampa Bay, and Seattle being the last three teams to be left out. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this predictions, what I got right, what I got wrong, what you are looking forward to out of the NFC, which conference are you going to be watching the most, which team are you going to be watching the most. I know for me, teams like Chicago are definitely going to be on my radar just to see how the rookie quarterback was. Washington as well, with Jane Daniels, going to be able to see a very fun offense that's going to be very mobile and full of athletes. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, like the video, share with your friends, and comment so I can write back and talk to you guys about some of your takes. Again, follow the social media for podcast clips for my different takes on breaking news. TikTok is at official play-by-play. Instagram is going to be play-by-play_podcast. And the X/Twitter is play-by-play_pot0. But without further ado, I'm Diego Gallegos. This was the Play-by-Play Podcast, episode 36, coming back to the NFL. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy and God bless.